Welcome back, students. Welcome to Priya's LifeScience Academy. This is your educator Priya. Today I'll start another very important part, which is population ecology. This lecture will be beneficial for those who are preparing for CSIR NET, LifeScience, those who are in master's degree or B.Sc, those who are preparing for NEET courses, and also for the UPSC students in their environment and ecology part. So let's start. We have to know that what is a population. Okay, so a population is a group of organisms of the same species, point to be noted, of the same species, which roughly occupy the same geographical area at the same time. Okay, so a population means the organisms of the same species come together and they form a group in the same area, which is known as a population. For example, in the previous class I gave you the examples of different kinds of Geospazia bird species like Geospazia fortis, Geospazia fuliginosa. Now, if Geospazia fortis, lots of Geospazia fortis, individuals of Geospazia fortis come together and they form a group that is known as the population. So a population must consist the individuals from the same species. Okay, now what is population ecology? Population ecology is the study of populations in relation to the environment, their interaction with the environment. Okay, it includes environmental influences on population density, population distribution, the age structure, and the variation in population size. So a population ecologist, they study the interaction of the organisms with the environment by studying their interactions by measuring properties of the population rather than the behavior of the individual organism. So always you have to think about the whole group if you think about a population. Now, what are the characteristics of a population? You have to know the population size, population density, their dispersion patterns, demographics, survivorship curves, population growth in order to understand the population clearly. So if you want to know a population clearly, you need to understand and you need to study these features. Now coming to the first feature, what is population size? In population genetics and population ecology, population size usually denoted as the letter capital N. What is the population size? It's very simple. It's the number of individual organisms in a population. Yes, the number of individual organisms in the population. For example, 20 people of the same species form a group, that is a population. So the size denotes that, and it is denoted as capital N. Now, you have to know what are the factors that govern population size. Crude birth rate, crude death rate, immigration, emigration. Okay, like for example, there are 20 individuals of Geospazia fortis. There can be immigration, emigration. Immigration means other individuals of the same species comes in, and some individuals may go out of the population. So immigration, emigration, and the rate of the birth, rate of the death, these things are responsible to regulate the size of a population. Okay, so factors that increase population size. What are the factors that increase population size? Natality is recruitment to a population through reproduction. So there are two factors which actually increase the size of the population. Number one is natality. What is natality? It is the recruitment of a population through reproduction. And another, yes, you guessed right, immigration. New people are coming from outside inside the population. So immigration. Okay, so immigration from external populations, example bird migration. You know that in different seasons bird migration happens. That's a factor for increasing the size of population. So natality and immigration will increase the size of the population. Now, what are the factors which reduce the population size? Yes, you guessed right, mortality, that is the death. Mortality, which is the death rate from any source, that is predation. Yes, especially in the animal worlds, there is a high chance of predation. After the predation, the population size can be decreased. And yes, according to immigration, emigration can also happen. So from the outside, some people can come, that is immigration, and from the group some people can go out, that is known as emigration. So emigration can happen where individuals leave the population for another habitat. So these are the factors which may affect the size of the population. Now let's dive in detail what is natality, mortality, immigration and emigration. So natality is the birth rate, the rate of the birth, which is the ratio of total live births to total population in a particular area over a specified period of time. So this is the actual thing, how to take out the natality, that is the ratio of total live births to the total population size. Okay, now what is mortality? The death rate, which is also the ratio of the total number of deaths to the total population size. So total number of death divided by total population size, which is the mortality or death rate. Now I hope you understood what is immigration, that the number of organisms moving into area occupied by the population is called immigration. So some organisms are coming from outside the world, external world, into that population region. And what is emigration? The number of organisms moving out of the area occupied by the population is called emigration. So some people, some organisms are coming from outside into the population. So here you can see the whole picture, births and immigration. These are the two factors to increase the size of the population, and this is the population size, the whole population size, and how the population size is decreased by emigration and by death. So this is the whole picture, by which these are the factors by which the population size is regulated. It can be increased or it can be decreased. Okay, I hope you understand the first characteristics of population, that is population size, and the factors which actually regulate the size of the population. Now it is a very useful representation, like population change equal to birth plus immigration minus deaths plus emigration. So this is actually the whole scenario. Now this is the population size. By immigration it can be decreased, by mortality it can be decreased, now by immigration it can be increased, and by natality it can be increased. So parameters that affect size or density of our populations are mortality, emigration are for lowering the population size, and natality and immigration for the increase of population size. Now the second characteristics of population, which is population density. Okay, so what is population density? Population density is a measurement of the number of people in an area. It is an average number of people in the area, and it is usually shown as the number of people per square kilometer. Okay, so that is the measurement. So the density is measured like this. So the number of people per square kilometer is the density of the population. So density is equal to population divided by area. So number of individuals divided by the per square kilometer area. Now there are two types of density. One is crude density and another is specific or ecological or economic density. What is crude density? It is the density number of biomass per unit total space. Okay, so number of biomass means the total population divided by the total space. That is the crude density. But what is specific or ecological density or economic density? Is the density that is number of biomass or number of individuals per unit habitat space, that is available area or volume that can actually be colonized by the population. So you know that in a geographical area a population lives, but not the total geographical area is suitable for living. You can't get a resource for your living from all of the geographical area. So the actual geographical area from where you can get your resource for living, your food, that is very less. So number of population divided by the actual space that can be colonized by the individual of the population is known as a specific or ecological density. Now there are several techniques how to quantify, how to know the population density. Now density is measured by two methods. Okay, one is total count method and one is sampling method. So one is total counting method and one is sampling method. So the total counting method is the direct head counting. Okay, so the direct counting of populations, and this is possible for few animals. Okay, because if you have to count the head of all the animals, if it is less then it is logical. But if there are too many animals, how can you count the number by just head counting? So breeding colonies can be photographed and then later counted. That can also be done. Okay, so the total count method not generally applies for all organisms. That is why there is another method, that is sampling method. So the sampling methods, there are lots of type of sampling method: plot based method, that is Quadrat; capture based methods, pitfall traps and light traps for the insects. Okay, now this is a very important sampling method. What is Quadrat sampling? Plant ecologists always apply this. For this they use a square frame, usually 50 into 50 centimeter, but not always that. Okay, 50 into 50 centimeter, and enclosing an area of 0.25 meters square. So so these are the quadrats, okay, planted by the plant ecologists. So after they place this squares frame, then they count the number of individuals of a given species inside this quadrat and try to understand the density of the population per square meter. For example, if you sampled 4 quadrats and you got densities of 90, 110, 105 and 95, you could reliably say that the average density of the species is 100. Okay, so this is applicable for the small trees, but these are not applicable for the large trees. In that, quadrats are ineffective. So this is a way of sampling, and you have to know the total area. For example, the total area is 100 meter, and inside the total area you placed so many quadrats. Now how will you take the total population? So average number per quadrat, okay, into total area divided by area of quadrat. So this is the method how you can understand the total population. This is the formula. This is the average density of the 4 quadrats, but if you want to take out the total population size, you have to go by this formula. Now there is another very important sampling method, which is Mark-Recapture method. Okay, please listen carefully, this method, that is Mark-Recapture method. Now what the population ecologists do for this, they first capture some animals from a specific area. For example, they captured some fishes from a pond and tagged them. Then they release them in the same environment. Okay, after the tagged animals are released, they mix up freely with the untagged individuals or unmarked individuals, and within a short period of time they mixed within the population. Okay, then the population is resampled and the number of marked and unmarked individuals are counted. Okay, so what is the thing? That one way to estimate the size of the population is to capture and mark individuals from the population and then release them and then resample to see the fraction of individuals carry marks. So here you can see that before sampling, all fish in a pond closed population are unmarked. Now the population ecologist just chose 10 fish and captured and marked them, and then released back into the pond. Okay, then they are released back into the pond. Now what happened? Now again after the release of the fishes, now the pond is again resampled, and now you can see what you got. You got a mix of tagged and untagged individuals. Okay, the sample shows that 5 marked and 5 unmarked fish were captured, but initially you marked 10 fishes. Now after resampling, you got 5 marked and 5 unmarked individuals. Okay, now we assume that the ratio of marked and unmarked individual in the second sample is the same marked individual in the first sample. To estimate the population size, so number of individuals marked in the first catch divided by total population size equal to number of marked recaptured in the second catch divided by total number of second catch. So I'll make the formula more simple for you. For example, in a lake population, inside a lake, you got first 50 fish. Okay, listen carefully, this type of sums may come in your exam. You got first 50 fish and you tagged them. Okay, these 50 fish are tagged. You gave them colored fin tags. Okay, and then you released them in the lake. Then after a week later, you went to the lake and again resampled. And now what you got, for example, you resampled 40 fishes, among which 5 are tagged. Okay. So initially you caught 50 fishes and you tagged them and then released them inside the lake, and after a week you sampled 40 fishes, among which 5 are tagged. Now if we assume no immigration and emigration happened, which is very likely for a closed population like a lake population, and no births and deaths cases are, so no birth and death of fishes. Now how can you take out the total population size? So the formula is n equal to total population size, number of marked individuals in the first catch, which is 50, number of marked individuals in the first catch, okay, multiplied by total number of second catch. I told you total number of second catch was 40, so multiplied by 40 divided by number of marked recaptured in the second catch. I told you you caught only 5 tagged fish among 40 in the second catch, so divided by 5. So you got the total population size 400. So this is the way you can understand the population size. Okay, so this is the Mark-Recapture method. Now the third characteristics of a population, which is population dispersion or population distribution. The dispersion of a population is the pattern of spacing among individuals within the geographic boundaries. Okay, so there are 3 types of spacing, like how the animals are spaced. So randomly spaced or uniformly spaced, or they are in a clumped conformation. So let's dive into it. Number 1 is clumped distribution or clumped dispersion, which is a result of attraction. This is the most common distribution of animals, because like for example in a geographical area, for example this is a geographical area, and resources tend to be clusters in specific areas. Okay, that resources are not clusters of all over the geographic area. Like not all over the geographic area are fertile or are good for producing food and providing resource. So for example, these are some areas which provide lots of food for animals, so animals tend to live in those regions. So they are clustered in the regions where they find food. Very easy to understand. But nowadays also, when we want to buy our house or buy our flat, what we see that if our markets are near, if there are enough amenities there, if the markets are near, so we check those things in order to get our food very easily. So animals also do like that in the geographical area. Not all area are gathered by food, so the areas which are abundant in food gets lots of animals. Okay, so animals tend to be clumped in those areas where food resources are higher, so which is known as clumped distribution. There is another pattern which is social behavior. Like us, in social behavior also plays a role for clumped distribution. Like many animals stay in herd or flocks, so, and which is a result of attraction. So clumped is a pattern where individuals are aggregated in patches, most frequent pattern of distribution. And what's the reason? Some area of habitat are more suitable than others. I told you, heterogeneous environment with resources concentrated in patches, like resources are concentrated in patches and not all over the area. Tendency of offspring to remain with parents, yes, so social behavior, mating or social behavior of the animals or individuals. So for a bond, for an attraction, and for the social behavior also, the animals tend to stay together in a clumped distribution. Let's look into this. You can see the clumped distribution of animals. For many animals, such as these wolves, living in groups increases the effectiveness of hunting, okay, spreads the work of protecting and caring for young, and helps exclude other individuals from their territory. So this is a social behavior, and they know if they stay together, they can prevent predation and they can live nicely and they can get more food. Because of the patchiness of the environment, like resources are more in this region, and also for this social behavior, like they like to stay together for the benefit of the group. Like if you stay in a group, you get lots of benefit than living alone. Now uniform distribution, which is repulsion. Uniform distribution means like approximately the same distance may be found between the individuals. It is the result of individuals actively repelling each other, so they don't want to stay together. Sometimes competition may result in uniform distribution, like the trees of the forest. So the seeds are uniformly distributed in a forest ground, but as they grow, there is a competition between their roots. So it can cause some trees to outcompete other trees, causing a thinning out and resulting in a uniform distribution between them. Thus, dispersion starts with random distribution and end up in uniform distribution. Some birds also tend to be spaced uniformly. Territoriality in animals also causes uniform distribution. Okay, so evenly spaced distribution in which members of the population maintain a minimum distance from each other. Like very easy example in our daily life also, like the person we don't like, we try to maintain a distance from them, isn't it? So that's the case. So in plants, due to competition for water, sunlight or available nutrients, yes. Example, there are lots of example, creosote bushes in Mojave Desert. In animals, due to strong territoriality, I told you, desert lizard, they are also uniformly spaced. So you can see the uniformly spaced distribution. Birds nesting on small islands such as these king penguins on South Georgia Island in the South Atlantic Ocean often exhibit uniform spacing maintained by aggressive interactions between neighbors. Okay, so this aggressive interaction between neighbors, so they try to take a space from each other. Now, random distribution. This type of distribution is the most uncommon and rare kind of distribution because it states that when there is no interaction between organisms of a population, like there is no attraction or no repulsion, but such cases doesn't happen actually. It's a spacing pattern based on total unpredictability, least common pattern of distribution. Because the individuals of the same population may interact, like of course they interact, okay, because we also interact with each other. You can see, like in the area we live together and we also interact, okay, but like in your neighborhood, like for a very easy example, I can tell you that in your neighborhood there's a population of the same species, like our species, so we interact, we like some of our neighbors and we also dislike some of our neighbors, so there is interaction. When we like some of our neighbors, we try to contact each other very frequently, we try to stay together. But when we dislike some of the neighbors, we don't try to keep in touch, we don't go to their houses, etc. So there must be an interaction. Either it is attraction or either it is repulsion. So for attraction, you will see clumped distribution. For repulsion, you will see uniform distribution, which I told you. And random distribution is very uncommon, which states that like there's no interaction between individuals. And also for the resources, we can say that in a nature the resources are randomly distributed, but this is not the case always, because in the nature is not always homogeneous. Some of the environment are suitable for producing food and some of the environment are not. So when we assume that the nature is very homogeneous, like in every kind of land there is a available resource, available food, then we can say the dispersion is random. So the individuals of the population don't mind and don't have to bother that where is the resource and we have to stay together or be clumped together, or we have to maintain a uniform distance, because resources are freely distributed everywhere in the environment, so they can be distributed randomly. But such case doesn't happen in real. So reasons: members of the same species do not frequently interact with one another and not heavily influenced by the microenvironments within their habitat. So resources are abundant and they are freely distributed everywhere. So we can see such kinds of individuals, like in plants especially. Dandelions grow from wind flow seeds that land at random and later germinate. So there's available of resource in all over the land, so they can grow nicely. So this is a random distribution, but it is a rare kind of distribution. So here you can see clumped elephants, uniform creosote bush and random dandelions. Note that both clumped and uniform distribution shows that individuals of the population are either interacting with one another, okay, such as in clumped, or are actively repelling each other or competing with each other for the same limited resource. Okay, but random distribution, no such cases happens. Here the environment is very uniform, the resources are spread all over the environment, so the individuals can randomly distribute themselves. Okay, I hope students you liked the lecture and you understood it. If you have any doubts, you can always comment below. study nicely, happy learning, and as I always say, fight for your dreams and your dreams will fight for you. Thank you, students.